Hello, welcome to the stream. So in this stream, we're going to talk about how US economy has fared during Trump regime. So recently, Donald Trump has claimed that he has done wonderfully well to revive US economy from his predecessors. But many people have refuted that claim, and in fact, many media agencies have gone on to prove that wrong. We will see actually how much truth is there in that claim, and we will discuss actually through different charts and graphs whether that claim is correct or not. We will see some of the very important chart of the US economy during Donald Trump's regime, and we will sort of verify his claim whether US economy has fared well during his regime or not. If you're new to the stream, please like the stream so that it will reach to more and more people. All right, so without further ado, um, I'll start with the different charts that I've collected from different sources, and if you want to comment, please do comment in the chart box so that I'll also get to know actually what's your view on this particular topic. Okay, so the first chart that I have for you is the US economic growth since 2009, and what you are seeing is the quarterly growth from 2009 to 2020. Okay, so from 2009, for about 8 years, Obama was the president of the US, and then Donald Trump took it over from there, right? So from 2016 onwards, Trump has been the president of US. Now as you see that during Obama time, there were good times, but there are also bad times. US economy has done also terribly during Obama's times, most importantly in the aftermath of the financial crisis, right? And you can see that there are ups, but there are also down during Obama's period. Now that continued even during Trump's period, but during Trump's period after 2016, it is less volatile. It is much less volatile compared to say the volatility we can see during Obama's times. Here you can see a lot of time the economy has done terribly bad. Now some people are claiming that during Trump's time the economy has done terribly bad because of the large downward this orange the bar chart you see here, but that's not correct actually, because that's in 2020. All the countries are suffering, and US is no exception. And being the biggest economy in the world, you can always see it being bit sensitive to changes in the international market, because it has a lot of dependency on exports and things like that. So you can expect that. So it's an exceptional situation. It's a once in 100 year situation, and we should not be judging Trump's performance based in just 1 year. But if you see the other years from 2016 to 2017, 2016, 2017, and 2018, even 2019, Trump has done really well actually. If you see the change in the economy is actually quite well. The quarterly change you see, say that's not that bad, right? If you compare that with Obama, I think I would say it is at least as good as Obama, if not better. But the perception of people, and it's because of the media, is that Trump has done terribly bad in terms of reviving economy, but that's not always true. That's US GDP. Obviously, GDP is not the only macroeconomic variable that we should look at. There are other macro variables also, and we will have a look at the other macro variables as well. Okay, so this is the annual growth basically. Now, if you compare the last chart with this one, there's a subtle difference here. This one is an annual comparison, right? It's not a quarterly comparison like the last one, the other one, the previous one. Here this is an annual comparison, and when you see the annual comparison, you see that during Trump, like from 2016 onwards, the annual growth in GDP has actually gone up, or at least as good as during Obama's period. Whereas in Obama's period, you see a negative growth during 2008 and 2009, and nobody is talking about that. So it's all about how you actually, actually interpret your chart. It gives a completely different picture if you showcase this graph, which is quarterly graph, right? Quarterly change in GDP. Whereas if you see the annual change in GDP, it is entirely in favor of Trump, as in Trump has done better compared to Obama. So it's about your interpretation and the way you try to sort of write about the interpretation in the newspapers and all, and media companies are taking advantage of that to blame Trump for that. That's not entirely true, because as you see, the numbers say that Trump has actually done well. All right. Then bit of a historical context, as in how was U.S. economy done since 1950? So over last 70 years, how economy has done well. All right. So you see that many a times U.S. economy has done wonderfully well, because you see in the positive axis, most of these bar charts are on the positive axis, right? You see the blue lines, right? And that is always the case. Like during 1950 to 1980, the growth rate was wonderful. It was sometimes even greater than 10%, right? But back in those days, US economy was relatively small compared to what it is now. So there was a base effect at that time, so you can expect a high growth rate at that time. But it drastically came down after a while, and since 1990 the growth rate has stabilized somewhere around 4 to 5% on average, right? But during Trump's regime, it also continued at that range, like at 3.5 to 4%. It is no different from that of Obama. Now, through this chart, people are being deceived by this media company by saying that, okay, in the last 70 years, we didn't see such a slump. It is only during Trump's regime in 2020 you see a big slump, right? A big decrease in the growth rate, right? This is a negative thing, that the one that you see towards the right side, right, in 2020. But that's an exceptional scenario. You can't compare that with a normal scenario, because that's because of the coronavirus, and coronavirus wasn't there in the last 70 years, right? But take it back to 1930 during the Great Recession, or even 1918 during the Spanish flu pandemic, and you would see a completely different picture. But journalists are very clever when it comes to putting out a chart where if they want to blame someone, they make out a story. It's somewhat a made up, actually. Um, right. So thanks, Eric, for the comment, and I kind of agree with you, actually. Uh, yeah, the bubble exploded in Obama's term, and it is evident from the chart also, right? From this particular chart that you can see here, right? The economy didn't actually fare well during Obama times, and it is not that bad also during Trump's time. I think the narrative that media is actually giving to normal people, to the layman's, is actually not accurate. So there's some level of bias, and they are using data to sort of justify their biased views, which is very sad. And for normal people, it's important because they don't really understand statistics, they don't understand as to how to interpret charts, and how to sort of misuse data and charts to support your claim. All right, so that's about economic growth, the historical economic growth. Let's see about the stock market. Well, US stock market has been doing well for a very long time. And after the financial crisis of 2008, the US stock market actually did wonderfully well until 2016. And as you can see, there is a upward swing. So those of you who are watching now, can I request you to please like the stream so that it will reach to more and more people, and we'll have a wonderful discussion on this. So as you can see here, the stock market has been doing wonderfully well since 2009 up until 2016. But after 2016, it did even better. So if you see the rate of growth from 2009 to 2016, it is good, no doubt about that, but after 2016 it is even better. There is a steeper one. It's the growth is even steeper. That means it has done wonderfully well, and it continued to do well until 2020, when things didn't go well because of the coronavirus. All of you know about it, and there was a crash, but that didn't continue for a long time. The stock market again bounced back, and it's still doing wonderfully well. So saying that, uh, yes, I fully agree with you. During boost time, the market did very bad, as you can see here, right? It went down, um, right? Pre 2008, yeah. I think it started around 2006 and 7, continued through the financial crisis time, 2007, with Lehman Brothers crashing, and the with all the other financial institutions suffering because of the failure of the banking system, and the overall economy, or even the real economy, also got affected. Not just the US, even many other European countries and Asian countries were affected. And as you can see, the GDP actually went down afterwards until 2009 and 10. Sorry, this is not GDP, this is the stock market, and it did better afterwards. But during Donald Trump's time, it has done way better than compared to the previous two regimes. So it's unfair to really blame him for this. Actually, some people actually blame him that, okay, no, that claim is actually not correct. But that's not true. What I see from the graph, well, he may be he may be not so politically correct person. He may be too blunt. He may be having other weaknesses, and but what we cannot deny the fact that during his time the economy actually has done somewhat better. At least that's what I get to know from. Once you see here, also suggests that economy has done better during Trump's regime compared to that of Bush and Obama. All right. Can I request you please to like the stream so that it will reach more people? Thanks for that. Uh, we have many more charts, so we have at least another 8 to 10 charts. So uh, we will go through all these charts. All right. So the next one is the unemployment rate. Okay. So the unemployment rate continues to fall. Well, the trend was there since 2010. As you can see, there is a downward trend from 2010 onwards, and it continued during Trump regime as well. So people are saying that during Trump regime, then unemployment has shot up. Um, right? Yeah, I'm not saying that during Trump's times is better, but at least it continued. I mean, the unemployment continued to go down, and that's a good thing actually for any economy. But during 2020, because of the coronavirus crisis, because of the lockdown, because of the fact that many companies had to shut down, or businesses had to shut down their operations, people people lost jobs, and hence the unemployment rate has gone up quite drastically in the recent time, in the recent few months. But that's not something a normal thing. It's a very special scenario, and I think that's an outlier in our data, and we should simply remove that before we make any conclusion about that. So one thing here I will conclude is that the unemployment rate hasn't really significantly increased during Trump's time. It has fared reasonably well, even though I would say it could have done better, right? But still, it is quite okay. Yes, I fully agree with you that COVID is a black swan event. It's a once in a 100 year event, and people uh, are being too harsh on President Trump, because of the fact that the way he has handled the economy during the coronavirus times. Well, all the economies in the world are doing terribly bad. So I think US is no exception. I don't think any other president would have done anything better. So I think that's a very special scenario. He should be judged on the previous 3 years, not his time during 2020, because that's completely a special scenario. It's not a normal scenario at all. Uh, some people are saying that it's he was the worst president, but I don't know. If you actually see the from the economy point of view, he has done a not a bad job, I would say. That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm just looking at the economy. There are other aspects of presidency, for example, foreign policy, about law and order, about other things, right? About the image of the United States, all these things. I'm not taking those things into account. What I'm talking here is only the economy, the US economy during Trump's regime. So that's again my opinion. I'm not an expert in political economy. Neither I have any. Well, I'm not even from US, so I don't have any bias against anyone. So I'm just trying to interpret the data and the charts here. All right, so that's unemployment, right? And you can see the annual employment. So the other one, if you actually take out the 2020, you see the unemployment rate is still going down over time, right? And this is quite evident from this chart. Again, it's the same chart except the fact that we have now removed the 2020, which is again a very special year and should not be in the analysis, I would say. All right, so and then wages. How was wages fared in the last 4 5 years? Well, the average hourly earnings or dollars per hour with inflation adjusted has been growing in the US for a very long time, right? It's no surprise because US is a growing economy, and wages have been increasing for many years, and as you see, it continue to increase even during the Trump's period, right? And what we see is that it increased quite steeply towards the end of 2019 and in the beginning of 2020. Although during coronavirus time it has come down a bit slightly, but you see it's even steeper during Donald Trump's time. So that's also another economic indicator that supports the the claim Donald Trump is making, that the economy has really improved because of many indicators, and this is one indicator which supports his claim, right? So again, I'm not being biased. I'm just trying to compare the previous regime with Donald Trump's regime with charts, and these are from reliable sources. For example, this chart has been created using data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and if we were to believe the data that we have got from this very reputed agency, then we have to agree on one thing, that yes, in certain economic indicators or in economic in macroeconomic indicators, the Trump regime has done remarkably well. Okay, and then poverty rate. Okay, so poverty rate in the US did decrease a lot during the 60s and 70s, but from 1980 onwards it has been steadily constant. It has plateaued at some point, but as you see, after 2015 the poverty rate has actually come down drastically, right? As you see, there is a downward trend after 2015 and 16, which is again one remarkable achievement of the Trump government. Um, Although it is short term, and we do not know if that will continue after 2020 or not, because 4 years times is not a good period to sort of judge someone's performance when it comes to poverty elevation. But it also suggests that Trump has done really well to alleviate poverty, to get rid of poverty, and the poverty rate has gone down in the last 4 5 years of his presidency. And then average monthly job gains. Okay, actually the interesting thing is that if you take a chart from a media agency or a newspaper that is supporting Biden and not Trump, then they put the chart in such a way that it make you it makes you feel like, okay, Trump has done terribly, terribly in his regime. But that's not always true, actually. Sometimes people use the data and charts for their advantage. I think that's not always good. Here you see the monthly average job gains. Again, if you take a 3 month, 3 year moving average, it would be pretty similar from 2010 to 2019. The only difference you see is 2020, but then, as I said, it's a special scenario and it's a black swan event, and there is no way we can compare a black swan event with the normal year. So that's, again, it makes no sense to say that the job gains haven't really picked up in the last few years. All right, then black unemployment rate. Well, black unemployment rate is very, very important, especially in this election, because people who are claiming that they are the marginalized section of the society in the US, and their unemployment rate is quite significant, actually. But if you actually see the chart, that says completely different story. The black unemployment rate was, it was coming down over the last 10 years, and it has also come down in the last 4 years. So there's no surprise there. So it has come down from 7.5% at the beginning of Trump's regime or presidency to 5.4%. So there is a huge decrease in the black unemployment rate. Although he is being accused by people to be somewhat anti-black or anti-minority in the US, but that's not reflecting in the economic indicators, at least, because as I see, it has come down, and obviously there is only one exception, which is in 2020, but that's something we can ignore for the moment. So the graph says that black people have done well during Trump's regimes, at least economically. Obviously, there are other indicators, other aspects such as sociological aspect, law and order, education, health. I don't know. There are many other things that actually matter a lot. Economy is not just the only one thing, but what I see here is that at least economically they have done well. Actually, this is something we cannot take away from any from. Well, the fact is, Donald Trump has been somewhat successful. I think quite successful in terms of reviving U.S. economy. Probably in other aspects, whether it's maintaining law and order, having a good relationship with China, or image of the U.S., image of the presidency. Those areas where Trump probably hasn't done well. But from economic front, I think he has done well. I think he has done well. The last few charts that I showed you, be it unemployment rate, be it GDP, be it stock market growth, or be it black unemployment rate. So in all these indicators, Trump has done really, really well in the last 4 years. So I think he should get full marks, at least on the economic front. I don't know about other aspects. I probably there you can decrease his marks, but for economy, I think he deserves good ratings. All right, then middle class income. Middle class income was somewhat steady until 2014. Okay, 2014 to 15 it was quite steady. As you can see, only after 2015 and 2016 it has gone up. Again, with another indicator, it says that during Trump's regime, US economy or the middle class income in the US has increased, and quite substantially, right? You see here there is a upward slope. I know that most people now in the US are thinking not to vote again for Trump, and I can imagine that's right. But I'm not here to discuss about who you should vote and who you should not. The purpose of this stream is just to educate you about the fact that the economy during Trump's regime isn't that bad as it is made out to be by the mainstream media. Right, so this is extremely important actually. Middle class income is very important, right? We are not talking about Jeff Bezos. We are not talking about Bill Gates or Google founders or on these Wall Street people or the rich bankers or the rich tech billionaires. We are talking about middle class people, right? People who are wage earners, who are employed in different companies. If you take the average income of those people, you see a huge spike after 2016, and that is a wonderful story. I'm surprised that Donald Trump actually didn't use these figures and these charts during his campaign, and I think he should have used just to communicate it better. Because these are actually numbers which are favoring him, which are actually supporting his claim that yes, indeed, during his times, the economy has fared well, has done well, and I fully agree with that. All right, U.S. stock market performance again, S&P 500. As I said, it has done again very well during 2016 to 2019. As for a very brief period, it came down, but again it is doing well. It is, as we speak, it is again doing well, and I'm not sure what is going to happen tomorrow because Biden is actually more socialistic, right? He will increase taxes. He is going to discourage probably the free market economy. I don't know what he will do because he's more socialistic, and probably that will hurt the economy. And then economy, the stock market will go down. People will lose wealth, right? People who are invested in the stock market, in the capital market, are likely to lose money if Mr. Biden actually comes to power because he is more socialistic minded, and maybe. But you actually see the Trump's regime, at least from a free market economy point of view, it has done wonderfully well. And you just see that the stock market actually has fared well during Trump's regime. Once Trump enters, it was how what is the S&P 500? It was 2200. It was just 2200, and now as you speak in a couple of months back in August, towards the end of August, it was 3500. That's a huge jump, right? In 4 year times, that's like over 40% growth, right? And is super growth, right? 8% annual compounding rate of return on stock market. I mean, it's superb actually. This kind of growth you don't even see in the emerging markets. And in a matured economy like US, where the base is already so high, if you see such a huge increase, I think that is that's an amazing achievement. And I don't know why people are blaming Trump for this. I think I kind of disagree with them because I think the stock market, the free market economy at least, has done well. Maybe on other aspect he has failed, but certainly not on the economy front. I don't know. Please let me know what's your views on this. Do you think this is okay? I mean, do you think that he has done well in from economic front, but not probably from other fronts such as maintaining law and order, um, having good foreign policies? I don't know, but let me know your views. Okay, and again, this is Dow Jones. Well, we have just talked about it. Yeah, even Dow Jones has gone up from 19,000 to 28,000 during his tenure. That's again like well over 40% increase. So the bottom line here is that the stock market has done very well. At least stock market. Obviously, stock market uh, is not everything in an economy, and it's certainly not talking about the real economy. The real economy is about consumption, private consumption, average income of people, spending behavior, and so on and so forth, and employment, and so on and so forth. But even on those fronts, we see wonderful figures, very good figures, which are actually supporting Mr. Trump's claim that the economy overall has done well. Not just the stock market. Obviously, stock market is somewhat biased because of the increase in tech stock in the recent times, and tech stocks are actually doing very well in the last few years, but that does not mean that the entire economy is doing well. That's not a conclusion. But if the other indicators are doing well, we can claim that. And what we have seen in the last few slides is that it's not just the stock market that has done well, it's also the other economic indicators such as unemployment, whether private consumption, whether it's average income, whether it's employment of the black people. In all these fronts, the economy has done well. And then the manufacturing input, this is another very important indicator, and you see that before 2009, during 2006 to 2009, in about 3 years, manufacturing had a very bad time, right? You see a decrease in the manufacturing growth, but it picked up after 2009 and continued, and it also continued until 2019. So this is also another indicator that supports the fact that US economy, the real economy, not just stock market but also the real economy, manufacturing, because manufacturing is very important, especially for the people who are less educated, because a lot of people who are less educated do not come from highly educated family, they do not have college degree, they find an employment in manufacturing industry, and for them it is very important that the sector does well, and what you see here is that the sector has indeed done well during Trump's regime. Okay, these are some of the indicators. Okay, government debt, right? Government debt is it's a problem in the US. Too much of debt, right? Too much of debt is actually not well, but given the fact that it's such a wonderful economy with very good ratings, and the fact that it's ever growing, so debt is considered not to be a big problem, right? But what we see here is that the US debt has been gradually going up in the last many years from 2009 onwards, right? So it's no surprise that it would also go up during Trump's regime, and what we see here also, right? For example, in 2015 it was 72, some, I think some trillion maybe. It continued, it's next 79 now, so there is an increase, and it is only going to increase in 2020 and 2021. I think that is where maybe Trump could have done a bit better, but I don't think this is also big of an issue. I think economists actually agree that debt is not that of a big problem, at least for now, for the US. It's still fine. Consumer confidence, that's another very important indicator, because in the consumer confidence data you have the data of mostly middle class people, and what is very important is that in an economy the people who are in the middle class actually are confident about the economy, they're going out, they're spending in purchasing things and all. That's very important for an economy, not just to grow but also to flourish, and it's a equitable growth of the economy. That means everyone is participating in the growth, everyone is benefiting from that growth. That is also showing that in the last 4 5 years consumer confidence has indeed increased. For example, it was 111 with some sort of a metrics during when Trump started his presidency, and it increased to well over 130 135 until 2019, but in 2020 it has gone down, but that's something we can certainly expect. So even with this indicator we can safely say that Trump has done well. So middle class people have flourished during Trump's regime, at least the indicators, at least this graph, that's what this graph is saying. I'm just wondering why Donald Trump did not use these figures actually in his speeches. Actually, I think that would have been better, but unfortunately, I don't know why he didn't use. But the economy front, at least, he has done quite well. At least that's my view. Obviously, people, I think people simply don't want his presidency any longer, but probably for other reasons, not for economy. Because I was watching, I was going through some of the tweets of the Goldman's previous CEO, and he was saying that he's actually an ardent supporter of Trump. He's anti-Biden, and his view was that if Biden comes to power, I think U.S. will go back to the socialistic system, kind of a socialist system, and the businesses will not flourish, economy is not going to do well, and then people are not going to get jobs, and it will create all kinds of problems. I think it probably will be true if Biden comes to power. And let's see in the next 2 days what how the stock market is reacting. Probably I'll come live again just to discuss that as well. US wages, 12 month changes in the average hourly earning. Again, that's something I've already shown. As you see, though, the wages are going up, and it has gone up from 2.5% increase on quarterly basis to 3.4% increase as we speak in 2020. So even during the coronavirus times, it has gone up. So that's something again supporting Trump's claim that he has done a wonderful job to revive U.S. economy. It was already in a good state, by the way, when he took over from Obama, and he has only continued the good work that Obama did, and then he has continued from there. I would rather say that in this particular graph, you see during Obama's time, for the first part of the Obama's period, it decreased quite steeply, right? And then it remained stable for many years. But only during Trump's time, it has really shot up, right? So again, on this particular front, Trump is has done better than Obama, and certainly better than Bush. Obviously, I don't have the data for Bush regime, but at least from my experience from other charts, as we saw, I think he has also done much better than what Bush did. So it's sometimes unfair to criticize him, at least from the economy front, because most of the charts that we have seen so far suggest that he has done well, at least from the economic front. Then business investments. I think we could have done better. Probably is because of the trade war and so on and so forth. I think that hasn't really been very impressive. And you can see that during Obama's time there has been a lot of growth, sometimes at least in excess of 9% to even 10% up to 15%. But I think that is hovering around 4 to 5% during Trump's time. I think this is one indicator where I see Obama has done better than Trump. And let's ignore the special scenario, for example 2007-8. Okay, that's again a very special scenario, but coronavirus, nobody, it's not a man-made scenario, right? It's some kind of an act of God, where nobody was expecting coronavirus to come. So 2020 is just not in our analysis, so I wouldn't pay attention to 2020. But if you see the other years, I think Trump has done okay, but it could have done better. So at least on this front, I would say Trump didn't do well, especially solving the issues with China. I think that was a major setback. He should have gone ahead with the discussion with Chinese premier to sort out a way. I think it didn't help either of the economy, but certainly not the U.S. economy. Trade deficit, right? We talked about debt, US debt, and about trade deficit. It is widening. It was always widening for many years in the US. It remained somewhat stable, but it has again increased during Trump's regime. Again, so this is again one indicator where Trump hasn't run really well. But I think trade deficit is not that big of a concern. I don't think for normal US citizens, trade deficit matters a lot. So even though he hasn't done as good as, let's say, his predecessors in managing trade deficit, I think it's primarily because of the trade wars and the recent trade wars and so on and so forth. But I think that's the temporary phenomenon. I think he probably could have managed it better, as I said in the last slide. But yeah, that's my conclusion. He could have done better. I think this one. But on main fronts like stock market, unemployment, right, GDP, I think he has done well. Okay, so these are some of the things that I wanted to discuss. If you want these slides, let me know. And if you have comments, please comment in the comment box. and if you like it, that's good. But I know most people will not like this presentation, because I'm talking here actually just from the facts, and the facts are supporting Trump's claim that economy has done well. I think most people will not like it, because I think the general sentiment this year in this election is that we want to get rid of Mr. Trump. We have seen enough of him, and we want to get rid of him. That's fine, that's nothing wrong. But I think we should not criticize him, at least from the economic front. There are other areas where he is worthy of being criticized, namely maintaining law and order, then foreign policies, and then you know the reputation of presidency, um, and reputation of US as a country. Yes, there are many other fronts where he can very well be criticized, but certainly not on the economic front. All right, thank you, and thanks all of you who have joined me in this live streams, and talk to you later. Okay, in the next 2 days the result will come, and then I'll go live again, just to sort of discuss about the what we can expect in the next 4 years. It's likely that Mr. Biden will come to power, but we will discuss about what will happen to the US economy if Biden comes to power. If Biden comes to power, what will happen to the unemployment? What will happen to the GDP? What will happen to the stock market? How will it, move, and what policies will be adopted by Mr. Biden? So all these things we will discuss in the next stream. So thank you all. Thanks for attending this.